going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Resistance broadcast. I'm John. Thanks for joining us on this Monday, mid-March. We had a great time on the Mando Fan Show this past Wednesday with Kevin from Toying Around and Boba Squadron. Great guest. And with me, as always, on this pod, James and Lacey. How fun was that? Just out of the gate. For anyone who might not have listened or watched it yet, and hopefully they do, a really good time for our first guest of our return on the Mando Fan Show, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to say I have great vibes when it comes to people, so I'm not surprised.
I love when we have guests just in general because we do the show so often that we've figured sort of each other's patterns and things, and it's really nice to have somebody come in and have sort of a different view of like, I don't know if you guys have talked about this, but it's like maybe we have, maybe we haven't, but like let's discuss it. What's your angle on it? And it's just so much fun to have guests. So Mando Fan Show is just another fun time when we get to regularly have those guests on. I love it.
Yeah. And, you know, this episode, typically when we're doing the Mando Fan Show or a TRB Live that's specifically covering a current running Star Wars show, we do our news shows on Mondays. But today, we're not talking about the news. We'll probably touch on some of the bigger stories that come out next week. But today, it's time because Celebration's around the corner. And I know there's some of you out there, a lot of you out there who are listening and watching saying like, John, I'm not going to Celebration. So what else do you got for me? We're going to talk about other stuff too. We have some cool topics that we're going to talk about in Will of the Force. So we have a loaded show. But yeah, for those going to Celebration, whether it's your first time or your first time to London like me, we're going to go over all the tips, tricks, and ways to maximize your experience at Star Wars Celebration and specifically London. And then also at the end of that, we're going to get to some of the questions that you submitted to us on Twitter. So loaded show, and we are excited to get into it. So a couple reminders, of course, if you are new to TRB, welcome. We're really excited to have you. Thank you. I know a lot of people found us on our recent episode of the Mando Fan Show, so this is our normal pod, so to speak. But subscribe to us where you prefer, whether that's YouTube, youtube.com/@theResistanceBroadcast, or your preferred podcast app, Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, wherever you get your audio pods. Subscribe there. And if there's a rating system and you want to shoot us 5 stars, we appreciate that too. And then the Mando Fan Show is going to be back Wednesday. We're going to be on with a cosplayer and author. Jedi Manda is going to be our guest as we talk about Chapter 19 of The Mandalorian. So that'll be 8:30 East right here on YouTube, and then the following day on the podcast apps. But we got a lot to talk about, so let's get after it. And James, Will of the Force, buddy.
I fear nothing, for all this as the Force wills it.
Yes, I love doing Will of the Force. And this week we are going to kick it off with a great question that has to do with Star Wars Celebration. Of course, will the Obi-Wan Kenobi Look Back panel that we're getting, will it end with a season 2 announcement? I know John's take on this because he wrote us privately as soon as it was announced. So I'm going to jump to him first just to knock it out. John, what are your thoughts on Kenobi's panel getting a season 2 announcement?
So, James, I forget. I must have been at work or whatever, and you sent the link, like, oh, the panels are, you know, someone found the URL or it was announced or whatever, and I took a quick scroll and I happened to see the Obi-Wan and it said Look Back, and I'm like, they're doing a panel on the Celebration stage looking back on a streaming series that came out last year. That's interesting. And because it's on the Celebration stage, and I know Ewan McGregor is not popping up on Twin Sun stage. You got Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. They're going on the big stage. But for an Obi-Wan Look Back, I found that to be a little curious. And I know there's been rumors, and not even just rumors, Ewan McGregor saying, like, I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do season 2. Let's go. He was an executive producer for season 1. People love him. People love Obi-Wan. I think that's happening. I think they are going to announce a season 2 for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know if that means Deborah Chow's going to do it. Wouldn't surprise me if they found another director. Nothing against her, but she seemed to have closure with season 1. as did our guest Natalie Holt, the composer for the series. But Ewan McGregor doesn't think so, and that matters more than anything. So I think that panel is going to exist, but they want to pop it, and they're going to pop it by giving us an announcement for Obi-Wan Season 2 on Disney Plus.
I'm really on the fence on this. The only thing I will say, because I want Lacey to answer this, then I can sort of bounce off what she says. The only thing I can say about this, though, that feels right to me is that if they don't, that feels like a nail in the coffin for that concept. Lacey, what do you think they'll announce a season 2 for right at the end of that or during that panel?
It's tricky, you know, because it's one of those things that, like, if they announce this, of course I'm going to be excited, and of course I'm going to watch it because I enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi the series. I don't think they're going to. I think this conversation is more of a celebration of what happened, while also leveraging the guests that they're having for autographs anyway, that they're paying to be there, and then also celebrating it in a way that the people that want more still get to have fun with it at the panel. That's my thought. I don't think they're going to do more. I think there's a lot going on with Lucasfilm right now, which we might get into in some of these questions, but it just seems to me that it's just a little out of touch to think that they need more Obi-Wan Kenobi, because I don't even know if it's done that well ratings wise, to be honest. I know Andor did not do as good as they had hoped. I know Mandalorian obviously is their best property right now, but I guess my question is, did Obi-Wan Kenobi do that well?
Yeah, it all sort of depends. Like if you're looking at like critics ratings, like, you know, Obi-Wan didn't do as well, but then Andor did. You know, it's like it depends on like what metric you're wanting to rate the show's success on.
Right.
Lacey, I think I'm with you that I don't think they're going to announce this. But I think that will probably sort of be a nail in the coffin on that concept for fans. They'll go, they'll wait, they'll be excited. But I also think, like, if you're right that they, I don't know if this was announced or not, but like if Hayden Christensen is there, then I think it's also weird if they announce it season 2, because then we are all like speculating that Vader wouldn't be in it, and it makes it even harder in canon and stuff for that to all work.
I think Vader would be in it. They just won't cross paths. But do you know what I just Googled? Any guesses?
What time is it in Cucamonga?
That was the second thing.
Cucamonga.
Yeah.
I asked, are pies popular in England?
Oh no.
Because I'm putting the call out right now. Pie bet. And I know I'm in the lesser odds here, but I'm still willing to do it for Obi-Wan Season 2 being announced at the end of that panel. Do you accept?
No,
I don't.
I still have a debt.
Yeah, I'm already getting pied. So it's just.
Can I redeem the other bet in England?
You mean pious in England?
Yes.
I mean, I assumed that's what we were going to be doing because we're finally all together, but it would have to be.
We're going to find pies. We got to find.
It would have to be at the end of the night after we don't have to be somewhere.
Go to any get a meat
grocery
pie.
store. No, we're not going to meat pie ourselves. Get out of here.
Yeah.
No, we're not meat pieing ourselves. That's disgusting.
Meat pie.
No, we're not doing that.
Another brick in the wall. All right, here we go.
John,
you're saying that to the person that did order pies over Target and have it delivered to the hotel. Then.
Yeah, we're also not very super reliable. We bought all those pies and we still didn't end up doing it. We promised we meant to. Guys, do you know how people can get on Will of the Force? You can join our Patreon, patreon.com/resistance broadcast, and that allows you to submit questions and topics featured on the show, and one of which is Will of the Force. So, you know, just joining, you will put out the call in one of our specific Patreon posts, and that's the moment where you get to submit questions, and we look at those questions, and occasionally we'll pick some and say, hey, this is a great question. Let's go ahead and talk about this on the show. So thanks to Commander Michael Cortes. Is that right?
Courtois
at Jedi Sparky. I'll say Michael wanted to know, with the success of the big movie franchises, Marvel, Top Gun, Avatar, etc., will there be pressure for a new Star Wars movie to break the $1 billion barrier for it to be considered a successful movie in the eyes of Disney and Lucasfilm? Lacey, do you want to go first on this one? What do you think?
I'm always the person that's like, box office don't matter. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if the story's good, it's good. If fans like it, sure, whatever. I mean, we're fans of Solo, and people seemingly think that's not a success. But that being said, with all the news that came out this past week of Disney scrapping things are no longer in development. I think that there is pressure on Lucasfilm and Disney for Star Wars movies. I'm not even going to say to hit the $1 billion barrier, Jedi Sparky, which I think is a good question. I think there's just pressure to make a movie happen at this point. So I'm going to tweak your question a little bit and say, yes, there is pressure, but not pressure to make money. I think there's pressure just to make it happen. And then in making it happen, also make money, if that makes sense. Because it's just insane, the news we got this past week about how everything, like Kevin Feige's thing on the shelf. Like Rian Johnson somehow missing again. Taika still in production. Rogue Squadron out. It's just, you can't help but wonder, okay, but what is there then? And I think we're going to get into that into our celebration chat of what we think is going to happen. But I would agree with you. Yes, there will be pressure, Michael, on these movies to deliver not just money for the businesses, but also critic and fan acclaim to be good movies, which they have not done at this point for 6 years.
Wow. John, do you think that the $1 billion mark is something that Disney and Lucasfilm are looking as a key like marker for success?
I don't think so, because I think a movie making $1 billion is a rare feat. You take Marvel out of the equation, and it's just, there's not a lot of movies that have done that.
52.
Right. And like 40 of them are Marvel. So like, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a new phenomenon that was mostly pre-pandemic. I think the pandemic has made it much more difficult for a movie to hit $1 billion at a box office. It has to be something special, which Top Gun 2 was. And Jim Cameron is bulletproof. And Avatar is a movie like, you got to see it in 3D. The only way you can do that is come to the theater and that stuff, you know? So I think there's got to be a realistic goal in mind. You could still make a movie for $250 million and have it make 800, 900 million. And that's a great success, because then you got merch behind it and everything else that comes with it. And that movie could spawn TV shows and sequels. So I don't think there's this like immense pressure, like you need to hit $1 billion anymore, especially post-pandemic world. And then also taking into the fact that if the reports are true, we're sort of starting fresh with Star Wars. So this isn't going to come with the nostalgia of the return of the original trilogy characters, or even a lot of the other characters we like, where The Force Awakens was this big warm blanket of welcome home, literally, in the trailer, and the movie makes $2 billion. This is not riding on that. So all those factors alone, I think it's unfair and unrealistic for them to say you need to hit $1 billion with this new Star Wars movie. So I bet they're not even planning for that. And the only thing that makes me hung up a bit is the report, at least, that we talked about on our short on YouTube, of the budget of Indiana Jones being like 300 million or whatever, because I don't think that's going to make $1 billion either. But that's the last one, so they probably wanted to make it right, and I understand that and appreciate that. Star Wars, like, if they do a $250 million movie, use some proper blending of maybe the volume studios in certain areas with location stuff, and they make the Batman money, I think that's fine. I don't believe in like the other aspect of this, which is the fan obsession of, this is why my franchise is better because it made more money. Like Lawrence Kasdan famously said when he was talking about Solo's performance, he's like, people never used to know how much movies made. They didn't care. They just wanted a good movie, like Lacey just said. And if Lawrence Kasdan says it, then I'm on board with that. So I don't think there's anything like that, and I don't think there should be.
I counted. There are 10 out of the 50 that are Marvel.
Right, whatever, man.
And not superhero movies. So just Marvel.
I'm not here to be Wikipedia, James.
No. I'm just saying that I think your point is that, there's only so many movies and Marvel is on top of that. But one thing I will say is that I think you have a good point that, they're probably not looking at that as a metric of success. I mean, they are. It's obviously like, that's great, we did it, but not whether the movie is successful in their eyes or not. I think that is more of a fan-driven thing, the $1 billion marker. But they tout it, they talk about it in all these things. And when you're coming out with The Force Awakens, $1 billion, Rogue One, $1 billion, Last Jedi, $1 billion, Solo, not $1 billion. Big failure. What's happening? And then they do Rise of Skywalker, $1 billion. It's like, okay, I think maybe there is something to that they are thinking. That's they're like shareholders or whatever, which are fans, people who hold stock in Disney, saying, if you don't release a Star Wars movie and it does $1 billion, then it was not a success. So I don't know. I think there's some truth to that, and I think $1 billion is that marker. Yeah. But I'm going to say that I just hope that fandom can get to the point where they can release a Star Wars movie, and it's a $500,000 or a $500 million movie.
That would be bad.
Well, yeah, I was trying to. I was like, what's the math on that? Yeah, $500 million or something. Like they put, 180 into it, and they made 500 million. And it's like, oh, that was a success. Good, it was a good movie. I don't know. Obviously, with Mandalorian, they can do a lot with that, and it still feels very cinematic. So it's very possible that they could put out a 2-hour story and keep it well under budget, release it in theaters, and it doesn't have to make $1 billion to be a big, successful, like theatrical Star Wars movie. But it kind of depends on what fans think, because fans are the shareholders too. So, so I don't know who are we even talking about? We say Disney and Lucasfilm. It's all one system. Let's move on to the next question though. And this one is going to be, this is another celebration one. Will the making of Andor season 1 panel end with a sizzle reel for Andor season 2? It's very similar to the other question, but this time we're talking about Andor, and we know Andor season 2 is coming, but is there any chance we're going to get any footage of it? John, what do you think?
Yes, I do. I'm being very positive, but I just think because in 2020, when that show had only been filming for a short period of time, we got a sizzle reel on the webcast. I imagine at Star Wars Celebration, especially knowing that Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna are going to be there to talk about the making of Andor season 1. They're filming the show. It's been filming for 7 months. They're going to have something to show us. I don't think it's going to be a trailer, but I think it'll be a behind the scenes thing. And maybe teasing like that return of some familiar characters, or like K2 or something like that, because we all know he's coming. They don't need to like save that. And I don't think Tony Gilroy's that theatrical when it comes to that stuff. So I think we will definitely get some sort of behind the scenes sizzle reel, and to whet our appetites for the return of Andor, because that's far away still. But I don't see how they wouldn't have something like that. It doesn't have to be big, but something.
Lacey, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with John. I think that we're definitely going to get some type of video sizzle reel for Andor season 2. I think it would be not only the perfect opportunity, because you have Star Wars fans all captured at one weekend, but it's just something else to add as an announcement for a property that is about to come out. Especially since it's an easy way for Disney Plus to plug what's already on Disney Plus. They could even end the sizzle with like, watch season 1 now on Disney Plus, if they release the sizzle reel online. So I'm going to say yes. I think they will.
I definitely know that we're getting new footage of Andor season 2. I definitely think that's happening. My question with this is, Is it happening at the Making of Andor Season 1 panel or the panel that is 4 hours earlier, the Lucasfilm Studio showcase?
I think
Good
that
question.
Andor isn't in that panel, and that's why they made the Making of Andor Season 1.
And
its
I
own
think
panel.
you guys are probably right, because I think right now what they need to focus on is the shows that are right in front of
Ahsoka,
us.
Skeleton Crew, Acolyte,
Yep.
Indiana Jones, new movie.
Yeah.
Indiana
Willow
Jones
Season
for sure.
2.
Ahsoka's got its own panel though, which is very interesting.
Yes, but they did that last time. They showed
With
us
Mando Plus.
They talked about Mandalorian, but then they
Oh,
showed
yeah.
footage at Mandalorian Plus. It was more. So
I was sitting on a rug with Lacey while you were enjoying that.
So I'm gonna agree with you guys. Making of Andor Season 1 is where you're gonna get the footage. Although it would be nice to be in the big one for the day, but it's still a long ways away. So let's just get what we get. I'm going to move on to the last one here for Will of the Force, and then we'll wrap it up. Will this year's Star Wars celebration be the best since 2015? Lacey, what do you think about Star Wars Celebration London 2023? Does it have the potential to be number one?
No. Okay, hear me out.
We hear you, though. It's going to be awesome, but yeah.
Because I don't, because I know some of our questions coming into the next section, I was going to say section. And then a lot of questions and feedback we've been getting online is people are like, oh my God, this is my first one. Look, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Probably a 9 out of 10, maybe even a 10 out of 10. Celebration in 2015 was a 15 out of 10. Like, it's hard to explain the just pure energy of Star Wars being back compared to now. And I'm not saying that I'm not excited, because obviously I'm in a completely different position than I was in 2015, and I wouldn't change anything about it. Like, I love this community. I love being a part of this podcast and the friends that we've made. It's a whole new experience for me. And I love meeting all of you guys at home at these events and like geeking out together and hanging out at the bars and doing whatever. I wouldn't trade that. But if you're talking purely on content alone, it's going to be really hard to top that 2015 Force Awakens panel. Like, you had every celebrity there. You had all the original cast, including Peter Mayhew, Carrie Fisher, Anthony Daniels, Mark Hamill.
Kenny Baker?
No, Kenny Baker wasn't there. But you had all the new people. So Oscar, John, and Daisy there. You had Kathleen and J.J. Abrams there. You had the trailer that no one had ever seen yet. Like, the fact that you were seeing Harrison Ford as Han Solo on screen again had people in the audience straight up crying, like grown adults sobbing. I don't think you're ever going to capture that again. And that doesn't lessen any other future experience. I think this show is going to be so fun, and I can't wait to see what they come up with. But I mean, these guys know I talk about it all the time, but like, even just who we had Kevin on toying around on for Mando Fan Show, he even said, he's like, yeah, the only other celebration I've been to is 2015, and it was amazing. Like, it's just like people remember that as like a pure time of Star Wars love, I guess.
I'll jump in and I'll say, you know what? I think you are right. The one thing that I would say that could be really interesting about this, you saying that the big angle on that was Star Wars is back. And I feel like the Star Wars fandom right now is thinking like, we were promised a movie a year and it's been so long and we don't know what's happening with music. And we're trying to pay attention to the websites and the news is just so crazy. I feel like them coming in there on that first day and saying, this is the Damon Lindelof movie. This is the Taika Waititi movie. You know what I mean? You heard about Kevin Feige's movie? It's not canceled. It's this one. You know what I mean? They have the potential to do that. That not only that, but also filling in with like the hype on the Mandalorian and leading into Ahsoka, which is like the Rebels fans and the footage that we see. I mean, we were already hyped on what little bit we got of Ahsoka before, and those Rebels fans and everything. I think there could be a possibility when we look back at it where like they announced a lot and it was very exciting to be in those rooms when those things happen. But it's all up against that one movie, that one experience of like that trailer with the cast in the room. And it's like, Yeah, you're right. And they might not ever top that, but I can
It's hard
tell
to
you
top
that
Peter, Carrie, Mark, and Anthony Daniels all on a stage together.
But I think that this could be, if I twist the wording of the question a little bit, like
Sure.
that one was the top, but this one will be the best one since then. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. Yes.
That
Could
could be
you
that
said
could be the case.
you're saying could 2023 top 16, 17, and 2022? Sure.
Yeah.
And 19.
And I forget the years.
16.
I know it was 2019. You're right. Yeah.
16, 17, 19, 22. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
And RIP 2020, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
That's right.
That was that year.
John, let's get into it. What's your thoughts on Star Wars Celebration this year being the best since 2015?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't at 2015, but I remember just I was at Disney World when that trailer dropped, and I remember just all the hype around it and trying to follow the panels and stuff. And I wasn't with Star Wars Newsnet at the time or anything, so I wasn't in kind of like coverage. I was just like, "Oh, the trailer's out! I got to go watch it. Hold my spot in the line for Pirates of the Caribbean." But I don't. I am actually not. I hope it is the best since 2015, but it's gonna really be tough to beat 2019 because let's not forget that everyone was super jacked up about the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. Everyone lost their minds. I was just about to say that. And then the Mandalorian. No, it's okay. And then the Mandalorian panel too, like the debut of footage of the Mandalorian, and Pedro Pascal walking out on stage, and a lot of people are like, "Who's that guy?" And now look at him. So that's going to be tough to beat.
Also, don't forget Andor trailer was that month too. That was the first real footage we've seen of Andor. Was
Andor?
That?
No.
Not at 2019. 2019 Chicago.
Oh, you said 2019. I thought you said 2020. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat that one. If they do, then we're sitting pretty, because that was two really big deals. Like the Mandalorian and Episode 9, like that was a monster celebration. So I hope so. So I'm sticking with my optimistic angle on this Will of the Force. I'm gonna say yes, it is.
All right, well, that's it for Will of the Force, and we can just move right into all of that celebration hype as we head into our discussion.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
That's right. So we do this in usually a few weeks to a month before the upcoming Star Wars celebration. We like to offer our thoughts on how to prepare with tips, tricks, and the way to just maximize your experience with as little stress as possible. Because I know like people get really stressed out, even though they're so excited to be there. It can be like overwhelming and stuff like that. So we're here to talk to you about it and give you all of our thoughts on all of these things. And Lacey's the best at this. She worked for ReadPop, so she knows the ins and outs of that aspect, but she's also been to a ton of them, and specifically the London one in 2016. So there's going to be elements of that are probably similar. Same location too, right? I assume.
Yep. Excel Center.
Yeah. Yep. So let's just get after it. Lacey, the first thing I want to just pitch to you to start the chat is what are elements for people who have gone to celebrations before but not in London that they can expect being different in terms of how they should like prepare, and that element of it of going to one in London. Say they live in the States and they've gone to Orlando and Anaheim and stuff. Well, what's different about a London celebration that you could think of?
So the thing I found most different about the one in London is that the convention center is set up a little differently. So compared to other convention centers like Orlando or Anaheim, where you walk in and there's like a lobby entryway and then the hall is towards the back. This one, you enter kind of from the sides and there's like a long section, and the convention center is like kind of broken into halves. So down the long center is like coffee shops, food stands, seating areas, security, not check-in security, but like security booths or helpful booths, stuff like that. And then on one side of the hallway, which I'm saying hallway, but it's basically like a huge kind of like what you'd think a mall is, like a huge walking area. And on one side is the show floor, and the other side was panels in like the big panel room. Now, the big panel room was down at the far end of the convention center on the right side. The way I'm thinking about it is like if you're looking at the Aloft, which is the hotel on one side of the convention center, if you're coming from like where the dock is and the marina with all the restaurants, if you're going into the convention center that way, like where the train lets off, where the metro lets off, if you go straight down all the way to the other end on the right side is the convention center, like the big main room. It's like a big gigantic room that they have like bleacher seats and then floor seats. It's much smaller than the Anaheim Bowl that you sat in for like the Obi-Wan Kenobi room. It's like half of that. So keep that in mind and set expectations, especially if we go into this with like lotteries and stuff. It's not going to be easy to get in that room. So be prepared for that. They might have made it bigger. That might be a thing. We don't know yet. But based on my experience in 2016, it wasn't as big as other convention centers that we've been in.
So then clarify this for me, because like
Sure.
in the other celebrations that we've done too, they've been like, here's where everything is, but if you're going to one of the main panels, it's over there. It's this other entity. Is that the case for this too, or is it like right across?
It's all in the same building. It's across the hall. So like usually the queuing space is across the hall from that big room, and then the show floor is in the next kind of hall. So there's like a temporary wall that's up, and then there's the show floor. So then
So
the
it's not like
queuing
Chicago with like you have to go to the Wintrust Arena.
No. Same building. So basically what happened is if you're looking at the building as like a square, like a pizza. So you have the show floor here, and then the queuing for the show floor over here, the queuing here for the panel, and then the panel over here. And then this was just like open space for other queuing. So the hallway goes down the middle, and it reminded me very much of like the mall. So it's like all the food courts and stuff are down the middle. Also, these are our exclusive celebration stickers that I'm using the back of.
Do you feel that the O2 Center is, or XL Center, I'm sorry.
O2 is over the river. You can take a cable car to get over there. It's very
over
close.
the river. Do you feel it's well organized in your opinion? Compared to Anaheim in terms of like, do you feel it's set up well for a celebration?
I honestly felt it was just a different vibe. And this might just be compared to being in the US, being to other countries. People didn't seem as eager for things as Americans did. Like Americans will line up 2 days in advance. The British aren't doing that from what I gathered that day. Now that might have changed, but in 2016, it was very much like, oh, this panel's at 9. I'm going to roll up at like 8.
Gotcha.
They're not the overnight people. And if there were overnight people, it was usually like Americans that were waiting overnight.
Okay. So beyond those elements, anything else from this is going to be different in London in terms of an experience?
Honestly, it's pretty straightforward. Wherever these shows are held, they usually set them up pretty standard. It's like you have one big room for all the panels and then little panel rooms. Then they have queuing spaces and a show floor.
Gotcha. Okay.
You'll probably see less companies over in the UK because it's expensive to bring stuff over there, but you'll probably see more exclusive, only UK only licensees.
Do they, for the people who are going to forget to buy outlet converter plug chargers, do they sell those there?
I don't know.
Because I know I guarantee people are gonna ask that. But
I'm sure you can get one at a local pharmacy and or grocery store.
I actually have a small tip for that, is that if you want to plug in a lot of things, buy one converter and bring an electrical outlet or surge protector with you.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
And then you can plug one thing in and plug the surge protector in, and then you can plug in like 4 or 5 of your normal devices all at the same time.
Yep. And
just don't blow the fuse over there because they'll get mad.
Well, sure. Yeah. Don't bring your microwave with you.
Yeah.
Things I recommend bringing that I think we all were thankful that we do are portable cell phone charger into the thing in case like plugs get hogged up.
That
Right.
is the number one for me, especially nowadays. Like you're taking, which I'm sure everybody has tons of photos, tons of video. You're capturing your time there. Bring a charger and don't get a cheap one. Spend a little extra money and get a good one that charges like 8 phones because you'll be surprised how quickly your battery goes.
Yeah,
8
and those things,
phones?
the one I have
Yeah.
charges my phone really quick too.
Mhm.
Like,
Nice.
no joke.
I
Yeah.
remember in 2016, I was working the event and my phone was starting to die at that final panel with Gwendolyn Christie. And I remember I missed Ben Mendelsohn coming out in his cape because my phone died. So
Oof.
bring your charger.
Yeah.
Don't do what I did.
Yeah,
You
it also like if you don't know, look for a charger that's probably USB-C, that probably or 7.5 watts fast charging or higher, depending on your phone. If you have an iPhone, specifically like a newer iPhone, you can plug in even like a MacBook charger that has USB-C. I mean, that's not portable, but like that's a quick way. Like anything that will take that. Because the phone will just take as much as you want to give it and it will move up as fast as it is. So as long as you get the fastest rated charger, your phone will likely accept that and it will charge as fast as it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
and hygiene and comfort. We're looking at extra socks, right, Lacey? And
Yep, that's my big tip. Extra socks, which people always laugh at, but throw an extra pair of socks in your bag halfway through the day. You can't change your shoes, but you can change your socks, and your feet will feel 100 times better. And people have told me that every year, every time I've said this, they do it, and then they're like, "Wow, I actually do this for Disney now. I do this for other theme parks. I do this for concerts because as your feet sweat." Your socks wear a certain way that give you blisters and stuff. So if you put a fresh pair on, you're going to have nice dry feet. And then it's okay. Everyone sweats. It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
and on that tip, deodorant and hand sanitizer.
I always bring deodorant with me. I always bring deodorant.
Even pre-pandemic hand sanitizer do that.
Yep, always do
Because
that.
you're shaking a lot of hands. And then maybe if you need to, some gum or breath mints. You never know.
So I always have deodorant, socks, hand sanitizer, gum or mints, a snack, a water bottle, an empty one, because you don't have to pay for water. You can just ask them where the water fountain is. And a lot of places, especially in Europe, have the eco-friendly, like fill your own water bottle stations. Just bring an empty water bottle.
Cool.
I have another tip about the socks situation. Is that I find that a lot of people think that they need good like walking shoes or a pair of shoes that are new or are going to be comfortable because they're going to be on their feet all day. That's not the tip. That's not the answer. The actual answer is before you go, I'd say about 2 weeks before you go, you need to start walking. It's not actually your footwear. It's your feet muscles not being used to being on your feet and walking that much. And that's what makes your feet sore. So going into a big 4-day event where you're going to be on your feet, walking around a lot, make sure that you're doing a lot of walking at home first, get your body used to that condition. And then when you're there, you're not tired, you're not exhausted, you're not in pain. Very important.
I could see that being a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
It's 100% a thing. I know it's a thing because I've lived it and I figured out what the problem was. And all the other times that I went to amusement parks and events and other things, and I finally figured it out. And it has to do with walking and getting used to that ahead of time.
Very good. Very good. So how about let's talk about, expectations and, the aspect of not always don't stress yourself out at celebration because you're going there to take a break from real life. You're taking PTO from work. You're, whatever you're taking time off from, and you're going away from family, whether you're local to London or you're going overseas from the US or anywhere in the world. Just try to not stress as much and worry about things and try to enjoy your time. And advice I need to take for myself, and going to Disneyland was certainly part of this. Like we were go the whole time. And I know we were doing podcast stuff, but I wish I took more time to just walk around the show floor and just look at people and look at cosplayers and hop into a booth for a bit. Make sure have a drive and desire to want to go to panels and stuff, but also make sure you have downtime and just walk around the show floor and meet people and because everyone, like, if you're on social media and you think the fandom's a certain way, it is not. So, like, this whole Star Wars Twitter thing is not at all a microcosm of the real life Star Wars fandom. People are nice, people are friendly, people are nerds, people love talking about things that they disagree with in a healthy and human and friendly way. So there have been people who came to Celebration because of like either our video or like they like our podcast and they went by themselves and then they made all these friendships there, you know? So it's just like, think about that aspect of it, that like you can learn the information about these panels and eventually probably see some stuff, but you can't replicate the experience of going to Celebration and meeting people that are just like you that you can't find anywhere else, like maybe in your hometown. I think that's important.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I said this back in 2019 when I first the first year of me joining the podcast, which is my own way of when I go to anything like a theme park or a festival or Star Wars Celebration, is I really kind of pick every day one thing that I have to do, one thing that I really, really want to do. Now, obviously, there's the expectation of like, hey, it might not happen, and that's okay. But if you do at least one thing, everything else is bonus. And I stick by that. Like, just pick one thing that you have to do, whether it's seeing cosplayers or going to this booth or going to the show store or going to this panel. Like, don't, like, kind of what John was saying, like, don't book up your time too much and just live in the moment and experience things.
Definitely.
Don't be afraid to ask for the photo. Don't be afraid to, say hi to random people. Like, you're going to make friends in random lines and standing
and
at the
opportunities
food
will
stand.
Pass you by if you're too afraid to do something. Yeah.
Right. Just know that everybody's there to have a good time and to celebrate Star Wars. And I think if you go in there with kind of a positive, welcoming mindset, you're going to surprise yourself with who you end up meeting. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't know where something is, or, you're like, where do these, is there any meetups happening? Where can I find these cosplayers? Is there a certain place to go? Like, don't be afraid to ask, because people will happily help you.
Yeah.
And there's no hurt in asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's
I think
really friendly.
I think managing that expectations is a big one. Lacey, you're putting it as pick one thing that you want to do all day, but it's fair to like look at your schedule and say, from 10 to 11, I'm going to go to this, and then whatever from that point on. But you can fill in a few things for the day. But I would say you're working against yourself if you're like, from 10 to 11 I'm doing this, from 11 to 12 I'm doing this, from 12 to 12:30
because things are going to go wrong. I'm telling you right now, things are not going to happen, or something else is going to catch your eye.
And pressured, and you're going to just make it in. You're going to feel glad about that, but your brain is going to be running on if I leave here fast enough, I can make it to that next thing on time, and it's just, that makes it not fun. And it is going to make your experience feel like it all just flew by. And I think living in the moment and just sort of casually going through things and understanding that you are going to miss things, give yourself that like downtime of like, well, 10 to 11, I'm going to be in that panel, but the next one doesn't start till 12:30. So I don't know, I'll get food, I'll walk around, see what's going on. Just try to choose your items based on not rushing yourself to the next thing. Because people do feel like they can accomplish it. Like, oh, I'll have a half an hour between that and that, I'll make it. But you don't want to be like, trying to make it to things or to catch that connecting flight, if you will. It's just too stressful. Like, just have fun.
Yeah. And also, like, there's the official merch.
I was going to say, some of this stuff too will be streamed later. So it's nice that you could go to the panel and see it in person, but some of that stuff, maybe look at it as like, that sounds awesome. I would love to be in the room, but I'll watch that later. That's cool. I'll check that out later. Right now I have an opportunity to go and see this thing in person,
Oh, and if
go
you
to the exhibit, whatever the exhibit is, go to the exhibit.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The Mando thing was like the best thing at Anaheim. But So like the big panel thing, I know people get so hung up on that and these lotteries, and we've all had our share of panels we didn't get into. James and I didn't get into the Rise of Skywalker panel, but you know what? If they're showing that on the Star Wars show stage, or whatever they call that now, the Star Wars live stage,
yeah,
dude, you and I had the best time.
Yeah,
Like Lacey obviously had the front and center right there, but
yeah, just different experiences.
The 1A experience. Don't like be devastated if you don't get into a big panel if they're going to be streaming it, which I think they are in the convention, at least not maybe at home, but like that show floor, like you felt like you were at a concert. Like it was so cool. The energy was amazing. Everyone was really nice. You could move around and stuff. So don't like let it ruin your day or leading up to Celebration. Oh, I didn't get that panel and stuff. Like, if you're going to be in solid shape. So just don't fret. Don't worry too much about missing the like in the room thing. And also they have the overfills on the other like Twins and Galaxy stage, so where they're going to show those. So don't stress too much. Cause I remember I did the first time I was like, I didn't get Rise of Skywalker. And then James and I just wound up watching it right next to each other. And he filmed us watching the trailer, and we've got the reaction of the three of us on our one video, and we weren't, the three of us weren't together, which is like, I wish we were, but I'm glad Lacey got to be in the room for it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, James and I had a blast and we weren't in the panel, and you will too, if they're doing the same thing for if it's the movie stuff, Indiana Jones, Ahsoka, whatever, you're still going to have an amazing experience with a lot of Star Wars fans and whoever you're with. So don't fret too much about that.
The first year I went, I felt there was pressure to keep up with the news too. Like I felt like I was trying to be on Twitter to see like, oh, did they announce like a new High Republic thing or, whatever. I don't even know if that was the case, but I'm just like, whatever the thing was. And then I found out through that process, and the second year I went, that I was like, oh, if they announce stuff, I'll find out later. It's not a big deal. If you are not able to make it into a panel, don't stay in your hotel room and watch the panel. If it's streaming, go and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
You'll see that panel stuff later, because it will be on replay or whatever. Or if they're not going to replay it, then that's their choice. That's not your fault. That's Lucasfilm's decision to not share that with the people that didn't get in the room. So don't let that ruin your time. You came all the way, so enjoy what they are offering you during that time frame.
I also want to chime in here really quick, and I'm trying very hard not to be the Debbie Downer or be that person that's going to like crush dreams right now. But this past week on StarWars.com, they released that they were doing streaming on the Star Wars stage, and they were doing streaming online brought to you by Jedi Order. And they were going to do live interviews and experiences, which is what they've always done with the Star Wars stage. They always bring guests out and stuff like that. And then they also mentioned panels in the phrasing. However, I just want everybody to set the expectation and understand that the way that the wording is said there, it leaves it broad enough that it doesn't specify every panel. It doesn't specify celebration panels. It says panels. So it could be, the High Republic panel or, Doug Chang interview panel. That doesn't mean they're going to stream the showcase panel. So I'm saying this because I don't want to see people being disappointed or upset online, because it hurts me to see people act like that, because I feel for them. But just don't assume everything is going to be streamed, because I don't think it will be. So I don't want to bring the energy down, but keep that in mind.
And don't assume that the customer service people don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So when I worked at Reed, the customer service team is in the same building. Now, obviously, I haven't worked at Reed for many years, so they might have changed that. I understand that there's obviously a chance that things are different, but the customer service team was a part of Reed Exhibitions, which was the company that owns Reed Pop. And they were people that worked on the same floor as us, that I could literally walk 100 feet and I'd be in the customer service department. So when I see people online saying like, oh, customer service is wrong, they don't know what they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. Like, I felt a little bit kind of protective of those people, because they're so nice, that I know for a fact that they wouldn't say something unless they checked first. And so I know that someone probably walked over to ReadPop or emailed ReadPop, or it could be a ReadPop representative in the customer service inbox answering those questions. So at that point in time, they probably weren't streaming things. So I just don't want people to run around saying, hey, those people are lying, or they don't know what they're talking about, or, oh, they clearly outsourced that service. They don't. And they're human beings just like we are, and they do the best they can. So let's not run around the internet calling them liars, because they probably checked and they probably did their due diligence, and that's just what they've been told. With events like this, with any event where you have major partners like Disney or Lucasfilm, you have multiple hands in chefs in the kitchen that are determining certain things, whether it be streaming or merchandise. Yeah, exactly. So just be a little bit more lenient with things. I understand that people are kind of stressed because they want to know what's going on and they can't attend and they feel it's unfair. I get all that. I'm just saying, don't attack the messenger, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and don't forget, there's already been 2 Star Wars celebrations where they didn't stream the major panels on YouTube.
Where they cut it.
Like
Remember, Jon Favreau goes, okay, is it cut? Great. We're now going to show the first 10 minutes, and then they cut it.
They black it out.
Remember that?
Yeah, the last one I remember that they did do that was 2017 with Last Jedi, and that's 6 years ago now. So I don't think people should have an expectation that they're going to do it again. So
there has to be a reason why you buy a ticket to these events, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I'm saying unfortunately because I know it's a privilege and I know that
Absolutely
it's a cost to go to these things. I get that. But there is a reason why they host these events, and it's to give the privilege of seeing things first, just like D23, just like San Diego Comic-Con.
And if you're starving for the news on the next slate of Star Wars movies, you're gonna get that information 3 minutes after we do, and they're not gonna have footage. You're gonna get all the information we had in terms of like, here's the next wave of Star Wars movies. Like, you're gonna get all the info, so it's not gonna be one of those things where 30,000 people leave London and we all keep our mouths shut. Like, you're gonna find out what's going on about the movies, so don't worry about that either. Then other random thing I just thought of, I sometimes go to Celebration, I'm like, I'm not buying anything, but sometimes you see something, you're like, oh my god, I remember that from when I was 7, or something new. Like, it doesn't have to be official stuff from the store. There's all these vendors that have these amazing things. I bought Solo stuff for my kid. Me and Lacey were like scrambling to find stuff. And then the poster tubes is what I want to get to. Poster tubes, but also the bow and arrow sling, so you don't have to hold it the whole time. You wear that puppy on your back. You look like Robin Hood, and you put that thing, you put your posters in there, protect them, and you don't have to worry about holding the tube.
Or you buy a sleeve. So I brought sleeves with me to Anaheim, and John lucked out because I brought extra ones because I knew John wouldn't bring any, and I just put his posters into sleeves and packed them into my suitcase.
I had sleeves on all my shirts. Thank you very much.
The point being there too, like, pre-plan for what you might not even know you're gonna buy. So maybe the chance of like bringing that extra, like, don't pack at your full capacity and then go. Like, don't take that extra carry-on or whatever. Go figure out what you're going to buy and have preparation for that. But also, Lacey,
I would leave your carry-on empty, honestly. I would bring a carry-on empty and then check, if you can, check your bag with your clothes and stuff. Keep an outfit in your bag just in case something happens. But I usually bring a carry-on that's empty.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, you don't bring 3 hoodies. It's just like, maybe just the one, and then you've got some room for some posters or whatever in your bag. However you pack, just know that you might be leaving with more stuff than you came with. But also keep in mind that your ratio of like things that you're going to use while you're there and then throw away, maybe like toothpaste and soap and other things like that.
I always bring travel ones that I just don't bring back with me. Yeah,
the extra stuff that you can sort of make room for it because you need it when you're there, but then when you're leaving, you'll have that extra space. But also that goes for things that you're going to carry on the floor room, the showroom floor as well. So like backpacks, which obviously some of the stuff need to be checked, so you need to think about that stuff. But backpacks, fanny packs or any type of like purses and things that you're going to be
Crossbody,
carrying
yeah.
as well. And what you can take on the floor as well. Lacey, you mentioned that you can bring food, so that's good if you're trying to
I
save
believe
money.
you have to
Okay.
double check the convention center, but usually they allow like, especially if you're a family, they usually allow like sandwiches and snacks and stuff because
Yeah.
if people have kids, you can't say no to that.
Usually the
uh,
clear bags these days, like whether it's a baseball stadium or football stadium, you need to put in
Yeah.
like a clear bag or something.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
usually.
and what would be good in that case would be like any sort of like a Nutri-Game bar or other things like that.
Yep.
That when you're in a
Granola bars,
pinch, yeah, those things will be like,
Mixed
you know what,
nuts.
I'm starving right now, but like if I not like somebody's not stressing out because you're not stressing out at this event, but like if you're not going to make it to that panel because you're hungry and you have to get food, it's nice to have that like extra bar that could like hold you over through that like 40-minute whatever, and then you could get some food.
Plus, look, convention centers are expensive. Maybe you just want snacks because you don't want to buy them.
That too,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, I spent like $9 on a pre-made white bread peanut butter and jelly sandwich. No joke.
I have
you know,
friends that go to all the celebrations and they actually always, whether it's Europe or not, every celebration they always bring, and Disney too, they pack in their suitcases boxes of those what are they called? They're the PB&J like little pods. Uncrustables. They boxes of Uncrustables.
Those are so good.
They pack
I don't
those
think
in
I've
their
ever had
suitcase.
one.
They pack them in their suitcase, and then when they get there, they go, okay, and then they take them with them in their bag. So like throughout the day, they save money and they don't spend money on snacks or anything, and they have Uncrustables.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
gonna get me some Uncrustables, I think.
Speaking of, I was just going to mention this too. Lacey, do you happen to know if, I mean, this might be something you could look into, but if you don't, listeners, but Excel Center having a mailing system so that if you buy something, you'd be able to ship it home without having to worry about
Oh, like a
traveling?
mail center? They might have a mail center. If not, definitely hotels have mail centers.
I can tell you this, that's always been one of my tips for Disney, is that you might not know it, but you can buy things at Disney and then just pay the shipping and they will ship it home to you. And most people think you go and you have to buy the stuff and take it back with you, but they have a service for this and they know that they can elevate customer purchases if they just make it really easy to buy that thing, and we'll pack it safely. We'll get it home. Don't worry about your carry-on or what you can take on the plane.
Yeah.
They can handle that stuff. So it might be something to also consider having that cash for, is possibly mailing it. You might need a little extra spending money in that case. And I was going to say, just in general, like currency, like you may want to go to a bank before you leave to have a certain amount of cash value that when you land, you will already be capable of paying for a taxi or a service or a fee or food if you're worried about credit card situations when you're
So
there. It's good to
it
have
look-
some cash, and you can get that ahead of before travel.
Yeah, so it looks like they don't have a mail center. They say that they have one post box at the west end of the venue by the taxi area.
So you can
they
send a
don't-
postcard.
Yeah. But I think a lot of the hotels have the ability to mail things. That being
So check
said,
your hotel.
they do have charge boxes for phones located at the east and west venue near the entrances. The cost is $1.50 in pounds for 30 minutes and $2 or £2 for 50 minutes. So they have chargers if you forget yours as well.
Yeah.
And they also have coat rooms. So if you buy stuff on the show floor and you don't want to bring it to the panel, you can check it in one of the cloak rooms.
Yeah. Or 501st people store their unis.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember when we showed up to, I forget what, if it was Chicago or Anaheim, they were all lined up and they all were picking up their boxes that they had shipped there. And I assume that there's places for them to store their stuff if they can't wear it all day. But, and then, we are going to get to some questions in a minute here that were submitted to us. But is there anything else we want to bring up beyond, obviously, if you're around, we don't have our schedule yet. Maybe by the time this airs, we do. We're not sure. We heard maybe next week, but we're doing a podcast right at the convention this time. So be sure we'll keep you posted, of course, on when and where that is. But hopefully you can make it, because we're always going to make it a good time. So hopefully you can attend to our live podcast.
Well, I do
have-
have our what we're giving
Go ahead.
away. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So first we have, I don't know if you could see it. It's a sticker set. Ooh,
Zoom it in.
I don't know. I can't zoom in.
Do a push shot.
I can't. But the stickers, it's 6 stickers. It's a sticker sheet. It has "We're Back, Baby" as a sticker. It has our taco challenge as a Taco Bell sauce packet. It has Dengar with the Deal With It sunglasses. We have a pie bet. We have John's hat that he's wearing right now. And then this is more of a creative one, but because everybody that knows my pretzel story, we have the Bavarian Legend Squadron. So that's something that we're just giving out when we see people throughout the convention center. But if you come to our panel, you get one of these, which is a limited edition print, has a nice shine
Holy
to it.
moly.
We only have 300 of them. Ooh.
That's
They're
where
gonna be
your-
numbered,
Your
too.
tube will come in.
They're going to be numbered. Yep. And they're going to be bagged and boarded like a comic book. So they're going to be safe in your bag if you get one. So that's if you come to our panel.
Yeah,
nice.
very.
And we'll also
very
have like
cool.
other
I'm so excited for that.
giveaways and stickers and stuff.
Yeah.
I have another
so-
really random tip that you guys might make fun of me for.
Okay.
But anytime you ever take like a life journey that you go on some big adventure, I have found it very well to pick something that you are going to do only on that journey. A couple tips for this is a new album from a band you like or something like that. Listen to it your whole trip. Anytime you have a free opportunity, just start it over and listen to it. Possibly if you're there, pick up a perfume or cologne or something. And then if there's like a drink or an experience that is unique to wherever you're going, partake in that every time. Because the reward for doing this is that when you are back home and you decide to spray that perfume, you will immediately be taken back to all the good times you had during that event. Every time you put on that album, you're immediately pulled back to walking around the event, having fun, smiling. You remember the things you see. Anytime you taste that drink or eat that food, it will immediately pull you back. And I feel like
Why
that
would
is
we make fun of
something-
you about this?
Well,
I was
because
gonna
it's
say,
a weird thing.
Sounds very sweet and sentimental and reflective.
Oh yeah. I
Apparently, we're
I didn't
terrible
know if it would people. I don't know. But
James
I
thinks
have
we're
found
terrible people. That's what it is.
no, I just thought it'd be like, so you're telling me to drink only cherry Coke, or whatever.
No, like, look, I am the biggest tourist. I will do all the touristy things wherever I am because I know
Yeah.
when am I ever going to be back here? So, like, I'm going to London. I'm eating fish and chips. I'm having tea at some point. Like, I'm
Mhm.
doing all the things that people probably in Britain are like, really? Yes, I'm
Mhm.
doing them.
And I think like that experience, and I'll give you a real world one, is that every time I go to Disney World, all I drink is cherry Coke. I mean, I'll drink other things, but like whenever I'm filling up the fountain drink, it's cherry Coke, because every time I randomly am at a party or I decide to grab a cherry Coke just because whatever, I feel like I'm in Disney and I'm having a Disney day.
Says the guy whose wife makes all the Disney snacks at home, buy the recipes, and makes themed parties about Disney.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. I'm just busting your chops, but credit to your wife for. I'm just jealous about the morning wrap.
I'm just throwing that out as a suggestion. Believe me, if you're listening to
No,
that
that's really
same
cool.
album on the
I like
plane
that.
and while you're walking around the city and you're experiencing that, you put that album on years later and you're going to be like looking at Big Ben in your head. It's going to be so cool. I
that is
recommend
cool.
it.
I think that is a really cool tip. That's not like on the checklist of normal types of
Common. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Lacey, any last things before we get through some of the questions people submitted?
Not really.
All right, let's
Have
get
a
through
good
some of the
time.
questions people submitted. It's time for. I'm gonna let him bring it up. It is time for Ask the Resistance.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
All right, guys, ask the resistance. It's been a while since I've done this one, but You've got Star Wars Celebration questions, and hopefully we have some good answers. So first up, we have Maximilian SCHR, who asks, it will be my first celebration, finally. Congrats, can't wait to see you. He says, when and where will I be able to meet you, John?
I mean, anywhere. I mean, we'll be I mean, I know me personally, I'm going to try to spend more downtime on the show floor and stuff, but our podcast panel, we will keep everyone posted on where exactly that is in terms of the podcast stage, because it's usually in one central spot, or now it's called the Hollow News stage. And we'll let everyone know the date and time. And we're certainly going to be also announcing, what we're doing after. We usually, the day, when we have our event, whether it's at the convention or not, we always try to make it a point to hang out with everybody after. So whether it's at a podcast meetup or our own meetup or something, so we're going to keep everybody posted on that. And then, not every day,
or our social media is probably going to be a place that if you're not already following us there, during that time period, follow us, unfollow us if you want, I don't know, whatever. But during that time period, it'd be a good time to follow us, because that's going to be the easiest way for us to say, we'll be here at this time, come and hang out with us.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do meetups, and we might be organizing nothing too big, but we might find a cool spot to do. Like if you're a fan of Solo and makes Solo too happy, we might do another thing where we can get together with people at this celebration and take a nice photo in front of a cool background. Like who knows?
Something.
Yeah.
Nice. He also asks, when will my ticket arrive? Max, that's a great question, because I'm also waiting for my tickets still. Reed Pop hasn't mailed them yet. They said that they'll mail them soon. He said, how do I get into panels? When will the reservation system be active? That's also a great question. Reed Pop has not announced that yet. I'm assuming that's going to come in the next week or so. And then he says, can I carry a backpack with me? Yes, you can. You just have to go through security when you get there. Usually once you're cleared, you're good.
Super easy. It's exactly what you would expect. You walk up, they say, can you take your bag off? You open it up, the guy sticks the stick in there and it just kind of looks around or whatever. And then you just kind of move past that. It's pretty simple, but a little bit of security goes a long way.
Yeah. Next is David, who asks, hey, David, he asks, any tips for celebration on a budget? Like we said, bringing some stuff with you, snacks, stuff like that. I mean, just for budgeting in general, like just set an amount for that day. Like, hey, I'm only going to spend $100 today, and just kind of stay within that budget. That's how I usually do it. And then he says, is the TRB team up for enthusiastic handshakes?
Yeah.
Sure, I am.
I mean, sure. Yeah.
I do want to bring up a question that we got on Thursday during Mando Fan Show. We got a super chat from Miles, who had asked, he had said he was fuming, which I'm assuming he's British, because I hear that and I think like, I'm fuming, which is like a very British thing to say instead of like I'm pissed, like the Americans say. He asked how we felt about Jedi Order not having a panel, but like I guess they're sponsoring the live stage.
Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, sorry, Jedi Survivor. Miles, my advice is to kind of stay tuned. I don't think they're going to have Celebration without having some type of Jedi Survivor panel. I'm sure it just hasn't been finalized yet, and sometimes they'll announce panels like a couple weeks out. If you look at the schedule right now, the stuff that's been announced, there are blocks of time that there's nothing. So
Also,
don't lose hope yet. It still might happen, but we really appreciate your super chat. And I'm sorry we didn't answer it the other day just because it was Mandalorian focus, but
sure,
don't worry. Stay tuned. I'm sure there's going to be something about that, if not a booth as well.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you, Miles. I remember James got to play the Vader Immortal Oculus game on the show floor. And being that this game was supposed to be out by the time Celebration came out, I would be shocked if they didn't have you can try the game out thing, or like something like that. Like Lacey said, a booth or even an enclosed thing where you can go in and there's like little kiosks where you can play it. I would be. I mean, if I was doing it, I would do that, because the game's obviously ready, in terms of like They delayed it probably because they were finishing things up and it pushed its release out, but they'll have it ready, I'm sure, to be playable. So hopefully they do it. I'm not saying I know. I just think that'd be cool. And it wouldn't shock me if they had something where you can test the game out and stuff like that. Maybe not a panel with Cameron Monaghan, although it would be cool to see him there. But I think you'll get, like Lacey said, you'll get your dose of Jedi Survivor because it's Star Wars Celebration and they want to sell some video games.
So I think he will be there, but you're saying a panel. I don't think it'll be a panel. I think he will make an appearance at the live stage that they stream. The stage is brought to you by Jedi Survivor. He'll come out, he'll talk to the hosts, and it'll be live, and he'll get in with the audience and other things like that. That stage over there has traditionally also been a very hyped up, where they bring lots of celebrities out. For that section, all sorts of cast and crew. It's a really good opportunity if you want to see with your own eyes these people, but you can't get into the panel. Always keep an eye on that other stage because they just surprise people. They're just like, Pedro Pascal, he's here, like walks out, and he's for a crowd of like 200 or something that happens to be around the stage at the moment. It's live streamed, but it is kind of one of those things that that's another little tip, is to kind of keep your eye on that. But that's
usually on the day that they have panels. Like, keep an eye on the panel schedule, and that's usually when the guests will come through.
Yep. Yeah.
Because they get them from the panel to that stage, then they're usually doing press and they're out.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to be sick of Jedi Survivor by the end of this thing, because everything is going to be like, brought to you by Jedi Survivor, and you're going to see the same clips over and over and over, because they are going to push that game so hard because it's the sponsor. But I would expect Cameron Monaghan to make an appearance somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have a question from Thomas at Thomas C332950007. Hey, Thomas. He says, if you were to book a photo with a celeb, do you get a chance to speak with them, or you rush through? You get about probably like 20 to 30 seconds to talk with them. And then, they kind of get you through. If you get an autograph, they usually take more time with you. So if you're looking to speak to someone, get an autograph over a photo, because the photo people are just trying to shuffle people through. And then he says, shout out to my son, Sam, and my daughter, Leia. We are all going to Celebration for our first time, and we're very excited. Awesome.
Yes.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Leia. We hope to see you guys there. Thank you, Thomas, for your question.
Hey, guys.
And that's pretty much it. I mean, all the other questions you guys sent in, we kind of just covered in our big thing, so I don't want to just keep repeating myself. But if you have more questions
that will be answered very soon.
Yeah, so
you'll know right away.
Yeah, if you have more questions, definitely send them our way, because we will be trying to do kind of shorter tip videos, probably leading up to Celebration, to help you guys out. So just let us know what you think. Back to you, John.
And yes, you can buy me a beer. Whoever asked that. But yeah, all right. So thanks to everybody for listening and watching and being a part of TRB. It means a great deal to the three of us. Thank you to all of our patrons at patreon.com/resistance broadcast for making a lot of what we do possible in terms of our live shows and our coverage of events, going to events, all this stuff. We can't do it without you. So that means such a great deal to us. So I want to give a special shout out to our generals and spice runners. We know a bunch of you are heading over there, and we're going to do our best to cover the convention for any of our listeners who are at home. So you want to check in with our YouTube channel, specifically our YouTube channel, for any of our videos on our reactions to panels and all that stuff. So make sure you're keeping up with TRB all week as well. But our generals and spice runners, I can't say enough about these people. Carmelo, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Darth Hurricane, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Danny, Mike Ramori, Matt Heath, Brendan McLaughlin, Count Pepto, Sneaky Zebra, Paul Sullivan, Aaron Ellington, Diana, Ivar, and Micah Harrison, and our Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gellner, Ryan Wara, David Hornack, Thomas Hennessy, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and Michael Fry. Thank you all, and all of our patrons at patreon.com/resistance broadcast. Sign up to any tier, however you'd like. Check it out. Tiers start at $5 a month, and then as you go up the ranks, there's a lot of other options and bonus.
And we're going to be doing our General and Admirals and Spice Runners call coming up soon. So if you want to join us behind the scenes, just kind of hang out,
which are always fun, so fun. Yeah. And as far as we go, Johnny Hoey on Twitter, And my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. We're doing The Bourne Identity next. I believe that's the first one. Anyway, James.
It is. Yeah, Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks is where you can find me if you want to talk about Star Wars.
And Bad Batch reviews.
And Bad Batch Reaction Show every Wednesday at 3 a.m. But that's not what you're going to be doing at 3 a.m. You're going to be watching the Mandalorian Minute, probably.
Or sleeping.
Yeah, or sleeping. Yeah. You just watch the Mandalorian and now there's that. But whenever you get a chance on Wednesday to check out that episode of Bad Batch, when you're done, head over to the Resistance Broadcast YouTube and take a minute with me.
Yeah. And in addition to our Mando Minutes or immediate reactions, Lacey ran a live watch along exclusively on Patreon. So Lacey, let them know about that and where else they can find you.
Yeah, you can find those every morning on Patreon, and you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran.
All right, and we will be back to discuss Chapter 19 of The Mandalorian with our guest Jedi Manda. She's an excellent cosplayer, also an author. So she's going to be joining us to talk about that on Wednesday at 8:30 right on our channel. And it will be on the podcast feeds thereafter. But we hope everyone has a great start to your week. We hope this was a helpful episode. And also, again, for the people not going to Celebration, watch our channel along that week. We'll try to bring you into the experience. And also, we hope you enjoyed the other aspects of this episode in Will of the Force. But more importantly, thank you to everybody. However you found us, however you're with us, we appreciate it. And we'll see you next time right here on the Resistance Broadcast. We'll see you around, kids.